Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take your curiosity, grab a bunch of sources, and try to boil it all down into something really interesting. Today, we're zooming in on the human body. It's this amazing thing we all live in, right? But honestly, how it all works inside, often a total mystery. Okay, let's unpack this then. Our deep dive today focuses on just one kind of unassuming mineral, but it affects almost every single system you have, often without you even noticing. We are talking about calcium. And this session, it's built just for you, using the sources you sent over so we can really get to grips with this essential mineral.
Exactly. And our mission here is pretty straightforward. We want to explore not just what calcium does, but, why it's so incredibly important. Plus, where you actually find it diet-wise, and maybe most critically, what happens if your body's balance of it gets, well, thrown off kilter. The aim is for you to leave with a quick but really solid understanding of just how vital calcium is.
Right. So let's start by establishing calcium as an essential mineral. Now, here's something pretty mind-boggling. Our bodies are always losing it.
Okay.
Every day. Through really mundane stuff like, skin cell shedding, nails growing, sweat, hair, urine, feces. It's constantly leaving us. And here's the real kicker. We cannot produce our own calcium at all. Think about that. So getting enough from what you eat isn't just like a healthy habit. It's absolutely essential for survival, non-negotiable.
And that constant loss, that daily drain you mentioned, it means we constantly need to top it up. It really drives home why calcium isn't just some bonus nutrient. It's fundamental, a daily requirement for so many bodily functions, which makes it clear why we need to really pay attention to where we're getting it from.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all heard it since we were kids, right? Calcium builds strong bones and teeth. Drink your milk. And look, that's totally true.
Yeah.
But what often gets missed is just how deep this one mineral's influence goes. It impacts practically every system. Seriously, get ready for some, maybe some aha moments here, because its job description goes way beyond just keeping your skeleton strong. So, yes, the headline everyone knows, calcium for bones and teeth. But imagine this mineral having like a secret life, one that influences everything from your heart beating to maybe even how life itself begins. Let's peel back those layers using your sources. Okay, first rule, the one we all know, bones and teeth. About 99% of all the calcium in your body, it's right there. It's completely essential for bones growing properly, especially in children, and for adults. Still super important for keeping bones healthy, helping slow down that natural loss of bone density that happens as we get older.
And the skeletal health part, it's a constant background job. Calcium is always working, building, maintaining that framework. The structure that supports your whole body, lets you move. It's about long-term strength and well-being.
But it definitely doesn't stop at bones. Calcium is also critical for muscle functioning and the nervous system. It's needed for basically every single muscle contraction, from like lifting something heavy right down to the tiny flutter of an eyelid or your heart beating.
Right. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, it's also deeply involved in the nervous system. Specifically, it helps release neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers, from the nerve endings, the synapse.
So it helps nerves talk to each other.
Exactly. It basically allows the signal to jump from one nerve cell to the next, or from a nerve to a muscle. This impacts communication across your entire body, making sure those signals travel properly, effectively, brain to body, body back to brain.
Wow. Okay, so calcium isn't just like building blocks, it's also the spark that makes the message jump across. That's way more fundamental than I thought.
It really is. Think of it as the gatekeeper for that signal transmission at the synapse. Without the right calcium signal, the impulse just stalls. Your brain couldn't tell your hand to move or your heart muscle to contract properly. It's truly foundational stuff.
Okay, beyond structure and nerve signals, calcium also plays this quieter role, doesn't it, in metabolic reactions. These are the chemical processes just keeping you running. And it's a role that I think often gets overlooked.
It really does, and it shows how tiny elements can run huge processes. Think of calcium as maybe a microscopic manager for your body's chemistry. For instance, it activates an enzyme, pancreatic lipase, helps you break down fats.
Okay.
It's also needed to absorb vitamin B12 properly in your gut, very important, and it even helps your pancreas release insulin, crucial for managing blood sugar.
Insulin release too, wow.
And it interacts with the proteins in your cell membranes, basically deciding what nutrients can get into or out of your cells. It's like the hidden hand making sure your internal engine is running smoothly.
That's amazing. And speaking of critical functions, what about stopping bleeding? After a cut, your body has this incredible repair system. And guess what? Calcium is vital there too, in blood clotting. It's a complex cascade, and calcium's a major player.
You got it. Calcium is absolutely essential for something called fibrin formation. Fibrin is basically the protein mesh, the scaffolding that forms the actual clot.
Like a net.
Exactly like the net. Calcium helps weave that net together. Without enough calcium, that clotting process just doesn't work properly. Even small injuries could become serious.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, here's one that really kind of blew me away from the sources, a potential role in the reproductive system. This seems to go way beyond just general health maintenance, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It's quite remarkable, really, how one single mineral can have such varied and profound effects. So in women, the sources suggest it might play a role in supporting egg fertilization. And there are animal studies indicating it might even help heal the uterine lining after ovulation each month.
Really, healing the lining.
That's what some studies suggest, yeah. And for men, calcium seems important for sperm motility, how well they swim. Also, potentially for healthy sperm counts and just overall male fertility.
That's incredible.
It genuinely shows just how far-reaching calcium's influence might be. It touches so many different aspects of our biology.
Okay, so clearly it's this powerhouse mineral,
Mm-hmm.
but our bodies can't make it. We
Yeah.
established that. So the big practical question, how do we actually get it? Where do we find calcium?
Yeah.
Your sources laid this out pretty clearly.
Right. So first, animal sources. Milk and things made from milk, like yogurt and cheese, are usually highlighted as the richest sources. Small fish, like sardines with bones, are mentioned too.
Those are the classic go-tos for many people.
Then you've got plant sources,
Wow.
tofu, especially if it's calcium set, legumes, so beans and lentils, some greens. And leafy green vegetables are important here too, right? Like broccoli, turnip greens, watercress, kale.
Yeah, those greens are great options. And don't forget nuts and seeds. Almonds, sesame seeds, chia seeds, they pack a decent calcium punch too. Good point. And finally, there are fortified foods, things where calcium has been added. So fortified orange juice, some breakfast cereals, fortified soy milk, or other plant milks. Those can help top things up.
Absolutely. And it's great that there's such a variety. It means, whatever your diet looks like, omnivore, vegetarian, vegan, there are ways to get enough calcium. Lots of paths to meet those requirements.
Definitely good to have options. Now, like with so many things in the body, it's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about getting enough calcium. Getting the right amount is key. So let's talk about what happens when that balance goes wrong. Let's start with deficiency, not getting enough calcium. What are the consequences? Well, first off, bone growth failure. This is obviously super critical for kids while they're growing, as calcium is a huge part of bone formation. But it impacts adults, too, in terms of maintaining strong, healthy bones throughout life.
Right. That foundation needs to be built correctly and then maintained.
And then there's osteoporosis. This is probably what most people think of with calcium deficiency. Basically, if you don't get enough calcium over the long term, your bone density decreases. Bones become brittle, fragile, much higher risk of fractures. It can even affect your posture, cause pain in bones and joints.
It's a serious condition, and lack of calcium is a major contributor.
And there's also hypocalcemia. This sounds more clinical.
It is. Hypocalcemia means dangerously low levels of calcium in the blood. Remember, most calcium is in bones, but that small amount in the blood is vital. If it drops too low, it can cause something called muscular tetany.
Tetany, what's that like?
Think severe muscle cramps, spasms, involuntary contractions. Muscles can just lock up. It can be incredibly painful and even dangerous depending on which muscles are affected.
Wow, okay. That sounds intense.
It really highlights the need for consistent intake. Because your body is smart, in a way. If it absolutely needs calcium for, say, nerve function or muscle contraction, and it's not getting it from your diet, it will pull it from your bones.
So it prioritizes immediate needs over long-term bone health.
Exactly. It's a survival mechanism, but over time, it really compromises your skeletal strength.
That's a really important point about that trade-off the body makes. So even if you feel fine day to day, your bones could be silently weakening if your intake isn't adequate.
That's often the case, yes. It can be a silent process for a long time, maybe until a minor fall causes a major fracture.
So you might not get obvious warning signs early on.
Not always clear signs, no, which is why focusing on consistent, adequate dietary intake is just so crucial. It prevents your body from having to raid your bone reserves.
Okay, makes sense. Prevention is key. Now, what about the other side of the coin? Getting too much calcium? It seems counterintuitive maybe, but can you overdo it?
You absolutely can, and it can cause problems too. Some are relatively minor, though unpleasant. Things like an upset stomach, maybe nausea, abdominal pain, vomiting, constipation, common digestive complaints.
Okay, discomforts. But are there more serious issues?
Yes, there can be. Too much calcium can lead to a condition called hypercalcemia. That's too much calcium in the blood. And here's the paradox. Sometimes, really high calcium intake can actually trigger your bones to release calcium, making them weaker.
Wait, too much calcium makes bones release calcium? How does that work?
It's complex hormonal regulation, but essentially the body tries to get rid of the excess calcium in the blood, and sometimes the signals get crossed, leading to bone loss, pain, and muscle weakness. It really shows how the body is constantly striving for that balance, that sweet spot. Tipping it either way, too low or too high, causes trouble, even with something generally seen as beneficial.
That is fascinating. And potentially dangerous.
Potentially, yes. And perhaps one of the most serious concerns with very high dietary calcium intake over time is arterial calcification.
Calcification, like hardening of the arteries.
Essentially, yes. Calcium deposits can build up in blood vessels throughout the circulatory system, and that can increase the risk of cardiovascular problems, heart disease, stroke. It's a significant concern linked to excessive intake, particularly from supplements in some studies, though more research is ongoing.
Right. So balance really is everything. Not too little, not too much.
Yeah.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what does it all mean? We've covered a lot of ground, from the obvious job in bones and muscles to these less obvious but vital roles in metabolism, nerves, blood clotting, maybe even reproduction. The big takeaway seems to be that calcium is, well, it's a truly core player in keeping you healthy overall.
Absolutely. And it connects right back to what you wanted, quick but thorough knowledge. Hopefully you can see how understanding just this one mineral, calcium, actually gives you insights into how interconnected everything in your body really is. Seemingly small things have these huge ripple effects across very complex systems.
It really does highlight that interconnectedness. So maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. As you go about your day, just consider how many other simple things, other nutrients or processes in your body are working away quietly behind the scenes, playing these incredibly diverse and critical roles, just like calcium. What other everyday nutrient might have a similar hidden complex story just waiting for us to uncover?